Welcome back to Aging is for Everyone. We're talking about having the conversation about end-of-life care today, especially having those conversations within our families. 56% of people have not communicated their end-of-life wishes. So there's all these families out there wondering, well, what would mom want? And it does happen where you're not able to make your wishes known. Well, today we're talking all about that, and our guests today have had the conversation and maybe can give us some pointers about how to do that within our own families. I'm happy to welcome a mother and daughter duo, Rosemary Hall and Julia Ann Hall. Welcome.
Hey, Laura.
Thank you.
It's great to have you guys here.
Nice to be here.
So how did you set up this conversation? Who decided to have it first?
Well, I think I have to go back a ways even before the conversation project started. I had a dear friend who had asked me to be her healthcare proxy, and she had a kidney transplant, and because of years of ill health, by the time she got the transplant, her other organs were shutting down, and I was the one that had to make this decision to pull the plug on her.
Wow.
And her son was only 14. And the family was very upset by it because Betty had really not let the family know.
Right.
And then my own mother died very suddenly. And my mother was only 68, and we had never talked about her dying. At 68, I didn't think in terms of talking to her. And I know what I went through, not knowing really what mom wanted and doing what I wanted. And in a crisis situation, when someone dies suddenly like that, you make decisions that if you had to do over again, you would not do them.
Right.
And I made up my mind that that wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
So about 6 years ago, I had all the kids home, thank God, for Thanksgiving, and I said that I wanted one of them to be my proxy, but I wanted someone that was going to be able to do what I wanted. Right. And this one would have kept me plugged in forever, so she obviously was not going to be the one to do it, but by Christmas time, my daughter Debbie, who is a physical therapy, has just a little bit of the medical. And I had done the proxy, and she said, Mom, I'm not going to sign this because if you fell in the street and was unconscious, they would plug you into life support because you've been so specific of what you want and don't want, but you're not giving any leeway for your agent.
Right.
So Debbie and I had the discussion originally of what I wanted. At that point, you know, when you're really down to the wire, where you're not talking and we're talking about medical. But I realized that I really needed to tell the kids what I wanted.
Right.
You know, I have long-term health care, so I want to stay in my home as long as possible. I've made arrangements for my funeral. I have my mass done, my readings done, and I have had the talk with the boys and the girls. And my son wanted to know, because I did this, is something wrong?
Right.
Are you in ill health that you're not telling me? And I had to reassure him that that was not the case.
Right.
But I just really needed to talk about it. And maybe Julie can tell you what her reaction was.
What was your reaction? What was your, was there anything about your mom's wishes that surprised you?
No, I think the kind of almost incredibly obsessive way she went about it was a little, off-putting in one way and only one way, and that is that it was so systematic. You know, she went through every child, determined each child's personality and capabilities to do X thing. She got a big white binder, and into the binder puts separators, and each separator has a different thing. She went about it very systematically to get, for example, all of her financial papers in order, her mass written, everything down to a look about the house to what you might actually want, and to let her know in advance. And so I think it was something she did with great purpose, not just for herself, but for us. There are 5 of us. We all have families. We all have children. We have small children in the family. The grandchildren range from age 6 or 7, right up to in their 20s. There are 16 of them.
Oh, wow.
All 5 of us have partners. We have full-time jobs. some of us have jobs that take us overseas frequently. So there were a lot of things for her to consider, and she did it, and I'm very proud of her for having done it. We have a great sense of relief, but we also had a lot of fun in the conversation. And if you can find your sense of humor in talking about end-of-life issues, it really can be a very pleasant experience, lots of laughter, as well as a lot of a thought put into the whole process.
Because it's about family. I mean, it's about, love and hopefully having an end of life that is going to be, a good end of life as opposed to
I think
traumatic.
It's necessary for you to let your family know that you're not afraid to die. I mean, that's one of the basic, you're going to be born and you're going to die. Nobody's going to get out of here alive. So I think to do it, and I'm not saying that mine is a test case, but I'm just saying the way I did it, I could tell with each one of them when I talked to them that it kind of gave them this feeling of relief. And, well, Mom's got it in control. She knows what she wants, but she's not afraid of this. And I say that, but I'm hoping that's true.
But I mean, I think it's really important for families where there is a parent who might be afraid. You're an unusual person, I think, in that, or where the relationship is not even the best. That you still try to have the conversation. It's not just for people who have good relationships with their aging parents. It really should. People should really make the effort to have it, even if it was a troubling relationship, but you're still in touch. It's sometimes even harder for children of parents where there's not a close relationship when they die and this conversation hasn't been had. It may be even harder for those families than it is for families like ours, which are very clannish and close.
They may find themselves having to make decisions for a parent that they don't know.
Exactly.
And, so at least if they can make the effort, or if the parent can at least make the effort to decide and say, this is what I want, the person has some idea.
I think that's right.
Well, and I think too, what I found out with talking to each one of the kids separately is that even though you think you know them, their personalities come out when you have this conversation, and they're so different. The way they see you and what they think you would have wanted. I'm going to be cremated and buried in my mother's plot. Now that really shook them up. Not that they were worried about it, but it was different. And they were like startled at that. And their reaction to it, Julie took it very easygoing, and Debbie too. But the boys especially found the whole conversation very difficult. But I had it with my one son on Friday night a few weeks ago, a second one, and trying to get him to do his healthcare proxy, and with the point being made that you never know when something's going to happen. The very next night, he and his wife were getting out of the car. Greg got out of one side, Kathy got out the other, and her foot got caught or something, and she went flying out of the car, landed face down in the concrete. When he called me and told me, I said, do you see how fast things could happen? She could have been unconscious. You don't have a proxy done. You've never discussed what you would want if that happened and she was in a coma. I said, do you realize how important it is? And that incident put together with the conversation, I think really made it alive to both my sons that I've talked to in that respect.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you both for sharing your experience with having the conversation. Hopefully more families will do it. And it doesn't just have to be when you're older. I mean, like you said,
got to do it now.
That's right.
Start thinking about it now.
Thank you, Laura, for having us.
Thank you. We'll be right back with more Aging is for Everyone.